everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I am here with Nikki the Rock Kinzer.
That's funny.
Can I start with our app recommendation that has made me laugh consistently every day all week?
Have you checked it out?
Are you kidding?
Of course.
I've installed it on my son's device too, and he uses it every day, and it is delightful. It comes in from Jonathan, who recommended a free alarm recommendation for the iPhone. At least I found it for the iPhone. I don't know if it's for Android because I was stuck laughing too much to even go any further. We should check that out. It's called the Rock Clock, and it is a talking alarm that it features Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who is a star of wrestling and stage and screen. And
you can't get through this without laughing.
I can't because it's so funny, because I love The Rock, and I think he's just such a great character and so charismatic, and such a he's a great guy to be a star, because he's a star with some authenticity, and I don't know what kind of baggage he brings. I guess time will tell, but so far he's got a great story, and I like him, and he's man, what an athlete, and so. The Rock Clock is an alarm with The Rock being the beep, right? So if you choose the classic alarm, you set an alarm, and he just says, beep, 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 beep. I could do this all day. And it is delightful. It is great. There are all sorts of crazy alarm sounds, like, as Jonathan writes, chainsaws and battle cat, which are...
I love how amusing you find this.
Nikki, clearly you need to be exposed to this. I guarantee you there are members of your family who would find this as delightful. It is great. And so, people of a certain demographic will probably find this is great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. The Rock Clock, available in app stores near you. Definitely check it out for humor. There are some technical limitations to it. He points out there's no snooze. There also is a challenge around having to have it on and being the forefront app. It doesn't integrate with the phone. So as soon as you turn the phone off, it stops working, and it'll send you notifications, but you won't get the sound of The Rock telling you to get off your duff and do the next thing. It's really fun. So in terms of fun and frivolous, that sets the stage for our conversation today.
Well, not really, but...
Yeah, I know. Today, we are talking about what happens when you have to look at major life changes and have to evaluate soberly options before you in your life. And you know what? I read the notes on this today, Nikki, and it seems pretty somber. So I'm excited for you to help me not be sad. Before we do that, head over to takecontroladhd.com. You can get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website, or subscribe to the mailing list and get an email each time a new episode goes live. You can connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD, and call us at 503-664-4ADD and get your voice and your thoughts and your questions on this very show, and your app recommendations, just like Jonathan did. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget, it really helps us out when you drop us 5-star reviews in iTunes and the Apple Podcasts app to recommend this as one of your favorite podcasts. It helps others discover the show when they need help and support. So pay it forward and drop us a kind review. I love seeing these things come in. It's really fun. So thank you for those of you who've already done it. Okay, now, why should I not be sad today? Can you hear my dog barking? I have a new dog. He makes me happy, but he's now barking. Can you hear that?
No.
I'm a new dog owner, and so I'm not accustomed to the barking dog. Yes, during podcast,
I know.
I made the mistake of saying he'd be a great podcast dog because he's generally quiet, and of course today he's barking.
Not now.
So.
Okay, so going back to your question, life can sometimes be sad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it can.
Yeah, I guess it can.
And so I think that the message today is really more about, yes, these sad things happen, and they can be, life-changing, terrible, tragic things that can happen to us. But I think that the message is that you can still find joy, and you can still build your resilience and and move on. And so I think that that's kind of the happy part of it, is that yes, these things happen, but there are solutions and there's hope. So that's really where I want to come from this. And not so much dwell on like what the bad thing is that happened. And I guess to rewind a little bit, I had a completely different topic for the show today.
Yeah.
And we will talk about that topic next week. But I checked my email this morning, and I send out my weekly newsletter every Thursday. And this email came in this morning about yesterday's newsletter. And she said, "Hi, Nikki. Thank you for mentioning Sheryl Sandberg's book in your email. A young neighbor of mine recently lost her husband suddenly, and like Miss Sandberg, has 2 young children. I am purchasing a copy of the book to give to her. I don't know her well, but I know she is hurting, and this small gift of mine may help a bit. I wouldn't have known about this book but for you. Thanks again."
Oh, that's very sweet.
Very sweet. And, something recently happened to my sister's side of the family. Well, she is my family, but her husband's side of the family, I should say, where they tragically lost my brother-in-law's uncle. And I was telling my sister about this interview with Sheryl Sandberg on Oprah, the Sunday Soul Sunday, I think it's called. And I told her, I said, well, you should check out this interview with Sheryl Sandberg before you go to the funeral. And she kind of gave me the same response as this lady did in her email, saying, "Thank you so much for sharing this with me, because it really helped me have some insight before I went and talked to the wife of the gentleman who passed away." And so, it is sort of a sad topic today. But again, I want us just to kind of look at these things happen, but there is hope. And the book that we're talking about is Option B. And it's called Option B, Facing Adversity, Building Resilience, and Finding Joy. The author is Sheryl Sandberg, who I am a huge fan of, because she is, her message is to empower women in the workforce. And if you know who she is, she's the chief operating officer at Facebook. And she wrote a book called Lean In, which is a fantastic book as well. So that's who she is. And basically what happens, and I'm not all the way through the book yet, so I'm, speaking from being about halfway through it. In Option B, she writes about the sudden death of her husband, Dave. And they were on vacation, and she found him in the gym. And I think they were on a ship, if I remember correctly.
Oh, God.
And she talks about her loss. She talks about what she went through, how it felt, the journey that she's had to go through, and some of the things that helped her. And she also gives a lot of great insight of what didn't help and how she felt at certain times. And what I really like about the book is that it doesn't apply to just losing a loved one, but it's really any kind of loss that we feel as human beings. So you could apply this like if you've lost your job, or if you're going through a divorce, or you are or you have an illness, or you have cancer. And it can also apply to, the new diagnosis of just getting, of having ADHD. And, these kinds of things happen to us, and they happen to us so fast that all of a sudden our options are what we thought we had planned. That option A is now taken away from us.
Right.
And it can happen so fast, right? And so then, she talks about the grieving process, and the length that takes is different for everybody. But what I love about this book, and why I really recommended it, is that it does offer hope that it is possible to heal even after something so tragic. And you learn how to make option B the best it can be. And as she says in the introduction of the book, you kick the shit out of option B then, because option A is no longer an option.
Yeah.
Whether you wanted that or not, it doesn't matter. And so when I look at this, like, again, when I said the new diagnosis of ADHD, it opens up something new that you didn't know about yourself. And a lot of people that I talk to will say that they feel relieved once they have the diagnosis, but they also have some fear of what does this mean now? And maybe your whole life you've been trying to live this one option, this one way, and now you're finding out that probably wasn't the best way for you to live. And now I got to figure out what my other options are. Mm-hmm. And so this is where it's going to be hard for me to talk about, because I'm going to talk about a personal option that got taken away from me. And I hope I can do it without tears. And I'm sorry, I do not mean to make this sad, but I think there is a real message here. And when two people come to you and say this makes a difference, I just have to listen to that. And I hope this resonates with somebody else that's listening to our show today. My option A was definitely taken away from my husband and I about 1 month after we got married. He was diagnosed with MS, which I have shared with on the podcast. And as his illness got worse, more than one doctor would tell us that, this is your new normal. And that's how they described option B, is they would say, this is your new normal. You just have to get used to this. What our goal here is to maintain him so he can still, walk and live as much of a fulfilling life as he can while he still has the ability to. And, telling us that we have to accept this and really make option B the best that we can make it. And through the years, that is definitely what we've done. There's been good times, there's been bad times, there's good days, there's bad days. I think that if you were to talk to both of my husband and I about this option sucks. It is not what we want or he would ever want in a million years. But it is what it is. And so now we have to figure out what is our new normal. I think it helps that my husband has such a positive attitude.
Oh, he's amazing.
He is amazing. Yeah. I mean, he takes everything with such grace. And I've had to learn to pull back and let him be, because there's times where I worry about him and I think he's doing too much. And what is this going to mean in a week from now? But I've got to pull that back because we don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. And so for him to do what he can do right now is a blessing. And that's what we talk about every day, is how grateful we are. Mm-hmm. And, something that she talks about in the book, and I think this is really important to hear, is if someone is going through a hard time, whether they've lost a job or that maybe a couple of is going through a divorce, whatever it is, it's natural for us to say to that person, if you need anything, let me know. And we all do this because we don't know what else to say. Yeah,
I'm here for you. Just let me know. I'm
here for you. Let me know what I can do. I've done it so many times. And people have done it to us too. When they know that Brad's not feeling well, they'll say, whatever you need, you let us know. And there was a time where actually it became this like almost family argument, because we were almost getting kind of blamed for not reaching out. And I'm like, you guys can't put that on us, because my husband doesn't even know what he needs. I don't know what we need. Yeah. Like, I don't know how to answer that question. And so when you do that, even though your intentions are really great, what happens is you're putting this burden on that other person to make a list of things for you to do. And it's just not fair. Yeah. And so my advice, and I think, this is kind of where Sheryl Sandberg is coming to, is just show up. And don't wait for the cue of being asked to show up. Make a visit, visit them. At the very least, if you can't visit them, make a phone call and just say, I know you're hurting. I know this is a tough time for you. I'm here and you're not alone, are the best words you can say to somebody.
Yeah, right.
And then they'll take the lead. They can take the lead if they want to talk about it or not. Something she says that I think is really important is, she says, I think that some people fear that if they bring it up to me, if they bring up like, the death of her husband, that all of a sudden she's going to remember that her husband died. And she's like, believe me, I already know that my husband died. Like,
that's not a thing you forget.
It's not something
you can't distract me away from that. And that's another interesting thing too, is like that's not the objective. The objective is not to distract me from this painful memory.
Right.
The objective is to help me integrate myself into option B.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that our therapist even said is, you've got to lean into the suck, because this is going to be hard.
Yeah. Hello, Miss Lean In.
And exactly. She's like, well, that's not exactly what I had in mind.
Totally not the point. I regret that has come up to bite me now.
Yes. And she also talks about the mistake that she made in the book Lean In, because there's a chapter where she talks about your partner and how to basically have a partnership, when you're trying to be a businesswoman and also run a home. And she talks about the importance of having that partner. And what she has come to realize is that what she forgot to mention and what she has kind of neglected to really talk about is all the single parents out there.
Yeah.
When you don't have that partner. And that's what she was, starting to really realize too, is that I don't have him to help me. And now I'm on my own. But she also admits that she's very blessed with having, the financial means to get help. She's blessed with having a bunch of people around her that love her. Her boss, Mark from Facebook, is, I guess, amazing, to work for. So, I mean, she admits to that too, but it is interesting just to see that she now says, hey, I was wrong when it came to this part. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, she said, people will say, I just can't imagine this happening. And she would say to herself, I can't imagine this happening either, but I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And I remember people would tell me the same thing, like, "Oh, you're so strong. You're just so strong when when your husband is down for the count." Yeah. And I'm like, well, it's not about being strong. It's like you just have to do what you have to do, because this is your option right now, and you've got to take care of him. You've got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of the family, and you just do it. But I just want to go back to real quick. Again, making the phone call, making a meal or two, going grocery shopping for people, hiring a housekeeper to clean their house. My mom did that for me once when I was really sick. And she's like, I'm going to hire a housekeeper and they're going to disinfect your house.
So
like,
good,
right on.
So good.
So that I didn't have to do it and everything was disinfected. So, but if you have, if you know somebody who has kids, take the kids for a while and let that person be by themselves or do whatever they need to do. Yeah. Yard work, people. Huge. I'm telling you. Yeah. I mean, we've had I could tell you numerous stories of people coming and helping us with yard work. Pete, you will appreciate this. When we lived in Tigard, our neighbor was our pastor of our church. And one day I come home and he is moving cement blocks because we were building a retaining wall. And he moved all of the cement blocks from one part of the yard to the other.
Oh, amazing.
Didn't ask. I didn't ask him. Didn't even know he was going to do it. It just came home and it was done. Amazing.
Amazing.
I mean, it's such a gift. So that's my biggest advice to people out there, is that just show up, don't ask, just do something, whatever's going to work. And again, that could just be a phone call.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where I'm going to try to turn this around into being happier conversation.
Thank you.
And how this can relate to ADHD specifically, because something that she says in the book is her therapist recommended Sheryl to actually write down 3 things that she had done well each day. And this is part of the grieving process, right? So she had to write down 3 things that she'd done well. And, the therapist says that these are small wins. Well, Pete, we talk about small wins all the time. Many habits, right? Yep. It's like we want these small wins. And this is what she says. I'm going to quote her. She said, "It made me realize that for my entire life, I have gone to bed thinking about what I'd done wrong that day, how I messed up, and what wasn't working. Just the act of reminding myself of anything that had gone well was a welcome shift."
Yeah.
So she says that gratitude is passive. It makes us feel thankful for what we receive. Contributions are active. They build our confidence by reminding us that we can still make a difference. And I think that this is where I relate this to ADHD, is so many of my clients beat themselves up every day before they're going to bed at night, because what they're focusing on is something that didn't go as planned, or something didn't get completed, or something just didn't happen at all that day. Right? I know there's so many people out there that can nod their heads right now at this. Like, they're not focusing on what they did do. They're focusing on everything that didn't happen. And
well, take it one step further. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing you think is, God, yesterday was terrible. I sure hope today isn't as bad.
Right. Yeah. What a terrible way to start
it's a terrible
your day.
Way to wake up. Of course.
Exactly. And so what this therapist did is, he had her document these things. And I talk to this about I talk about this concept with my clients all the time. And this is where success journals can come into play. And I have one client who actually calls it an evidence log. That's his evidence. And I love that. I think that's great. And, success journal, evidence log.
Evidence log is perfect.
That a boy. That's what the file was that my husband used to have. So, I mean, anything that resonates with you, but it is so important for us to mark these things, document them, review them when you need to, and really start paying attention to them. And if you're at the end of your day and option A, the way you thought something was going to go didn't work, that's okay. It's okay to move on to option B. And I think that that's sort of the message too, is that option B can still be really, really good. It may not be of what you would have chosen if you'd had a choice, but it can still be really, really good. So that's my message. I want you to check out option B if any of this resonates with you. And if you haven't already, start that success journal, start that evidence log, and just know that there's lots of options. There's B, C, D, E, F.
Look at all the options. In fact, there are exactly 26 options. After you hit Z, we don't know what to do. But
you go to numbers. Then you go to option 1, option 2, plan A, plan B. Right. I mean, it is endless.
All right.
Lots of hope and lots of possibilities. So that's how we're going to switch this something that can be kind of sad into something that gives people hope.
I sure appreciate you sharing. Again, you guys are constantly on our minds just because of the way you have navigated both, your husband and the way he has navigated the diagnosis and living with it now, as long as you have, and to have gone through it so early in your marriage. You guys have become, fast role models in how to handle dealing with the jarring switch from option A to option B.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health. No, it's actually quite a beautiful story. And so I certainly appreciate you sharing today. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We, as always, deeply appreciate your time and your attention. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll catch you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.